Hey, this is Kenny Austin with K Austin Designs, 1970 K Austin on Discord. I decided to do a total walkthrough of Arborist, kind of a none to done, if you will, of the Arborist program. This is going to be my 16th course using Arborist, all the way back into the beta versions. I was pretty instrumental in doing the Google Doc, which this is definitely not a replacement for that. The Google Doc manual is a lot easier place to find specific things. This is going to be my going through Arborist on this course from the very start to the finish, and I'll try to break it up into different videos where they don't get super long, but the program itself, the Arborist program, has so much stuff in it. It really is no way to show everything. So this is more kind of my walkthrough of how I do things. And we're going to start in Unity because there's a lot of preparation that you can do in Unity before you ever get into Arborist that will help along the way. So first thing that really is not talked about a lot in None to Done is lighting. And lighting is going to play an instrumental part in Arborist because all of the coloring in Arborist is going to be based off the lighting from Unity. So we're going to start here. What I do is, now this tree is something I'm going to use on this course a lot, so I went ahead and used it. But even if I don't have that, I'll bring some tree in to Unity so that we can do a couple of things. Lighting. So if you're not familiar, lighting, there's a couple of places with lighting. The main one being directional light. All right, so directional light. We've got sun intensity. So that's going to be the strength. I usually like the 1.4, somewhere in that range, but you can see you can brighten things up, you can darken things up. All right, so we're going to go back to that 1.4 because that's where I like it. The other thing you can do is with color. And I've got this one set where I want it, so I'm going to copy. But I always bring a little bit of yellow in, and it just softens up the greens. But I'll show you kind of, you can change, you can bring more in, you can lighten it up however you want it. If you want more green, you can bring more green in. All right, so let's go back where we were, paste. Let's see. Shadow strength. So the reason I bring a tree in is the shadow strength, and the shadow will play a big part in the tree colors from different angles. And with this one, I've got it at 0.55. The shadow strength is going to be affected by the lighting. So, you know, what's 5.5 here, if you've got it a little bit brighter here, you're going to want your shadow a little bit darker. It's just a lot of playing around. And the other thing, your skybox. Okay, so your skybox is going to be controlled here. You can change your skybox. Click that one, it brings all the different ones up. You can drag and drop different ones in there, changes your skybox up. Then you can actually go to the skybox. So let's go to here. Go back to inspector, and you can change your exposure. I like the 0.97, but you can make it a little brighter. You can make it a little darker, really make your clouds show a lot better. Where was I? 0.97. Let's get back to there. So we get all of that set up. The other thing is going to be post-processing. Okay, so when you click on post-processing, over here, you've got a lot of different prefabs, and you can change these. You can change different ones here. You can click around, find the ones you want. You can change all of these values. It's a whole lot of stuff that you can play with. Try to get as much of that done as you can, okay? That's very important. If you've done all of your terrain work in Unity with either Unity brushes or RAM, then your terrain's going to be set. You want to set your terrains before you get into Arborist. I just use an inner and an outer. I don't use anything specific. A lot of guys like a grasses terrain. I don't really use one. I just go with the inner and the outer. If you do like me and you do a lot of your terrain work in Blender, like I do all of my different lake edges, I got different ones that I like. This one's more of a drop off. I've got a real gradual one. I've got some different ones that I play with. But if you've done that, then you need to do this little thing right here, lower terrain under meshes. All right, so we're going to do this for the inner and the outer. We're going to do this for my terrain inner. You want to make sure you set these to 0. And what this is going to do, it's going to match up the terrain with the meshes. So when you go into Arborist and start planting stuff, it'll plant on the terrain, not on the mesh. Well, you want the terrain to line up with your meshes. So we're going to go here. We're going to lower all spines. I'm going to let this run and pause because I have not done it. All right, so I'm back. We've got the inner and my outer terrain lowered beneath meshes, so everything matches up. So up to this point, we've gone through Inkscape. I've done all of my Blender work that I plan on doing. I've brought everything into Unity. I've set up my terrains that I plan on using. Got all my lighting exactly like I want my lighting, or at least close to where I want it. You can always come back and touch that up. I've got my grasses as close to where I think that I want them as possible. So what this will do is it'll allow me, when I go into Arborist, to match my trees to my grasses. Then if I do any further lighting adjustments, it'll adjust the grass and the trees, and everything will still be in harmony. Everything will still look blended and look correct. All right, so we've got all of that done. Trying to make sure I'm not missing anything since I kind of do this on my own normally. So I've got my lighting, grasses, we've lowered terrain. The one other thing that I do, it's not something that's necessary, but it is definitely helpful. I go ahead and pull up I build my course, and then I go ahead and pull up Greenkeeper. And I set at least the tees and the pins. You have to do the out of bounds, all the necessary one hazard. I don't do everything at this point, but I definitely set my tees. The reason I do this is so before I ever go into Arborist, I run a bench, and I've already done that. Let's see if we can find my bench tools. Bench, there it is. So I go ahead and run this. This gives me a baseline. I didn't say when I'm doing 3DG, I try to set 3DG kind of light at first and run this bench. So this gives me a baseline. I've got a lot of room, obviously. Then as I go through Arborist, if I still have some room after I get done in Arborist, I can come back and extend my 3DG, thicken it up a little bit more if I need to. But I've got this one pretty close to where I want it already. So now we've got everything done. We've done our terrain. Once you change that terrain, you've got to build the course again. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to build this course again, and then we'll go into Arborist. All right, so I got my course built, and that brings up a good point. You can go back and forth between Arborist and Unity. No problem. It will not affect your Arborist file. If you do anything with terrain, you need to at least pull it up in Arborist because it will adjust to the new terrain, and it should do that automatic. But you definitely want to fly around and make sure that everything did adjust to the new terrain. But if you do any kind of edits in Unity, you have to go and build the course again for it to show up in Arborist. That's really important. All right, so we're going to pause. Well, yeah, let's pause for a second. I'll get Arborist pulled up, and then we'll go through the setup of Arborist. All right, so I've clicked on the Arborist launcher. That automatically checks for updates. I've got it set up. I like to work in windowed. That way, if I need to go into something else, I can. I'm going to hit play. It's going to pull up, and it's going to have this screen. You're going to load your course. You load your course. You got to find where it is. This one I've got on my C drive, projects. We're working on Innisbrook Island course. This is where it built the island course for me. This is the GSparse file. Double click that and it will pull up. This one should load relatively quick. It doesn't have much in it. The more you put in Unity, the longer this load time is. The more that you put in Arborist, the longer this load time is. So it may take a minute, after you've done a little bit, but this one should come up relatively quick. Now that I say that, it's taken a while. I was trying not to pause to show you real time. Come on. There we go. Okay. So scene is opening up. So you can see it brought in the tree that I planted from Unity. So anything I plant, and with this one, I've got a lot of these trees I'm going to have to plant in Unity, and we'll deal with that later. I'll kind of show you that back and forth with that. Moving around, WSADQE, just like anywhere else. Scroll wheel speeds it up, slows it down for moving around. All right, so this video is just going to be the setup. So we're going to go to our little hamburger drop down here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do our terrains. So it's inner and outer show up. I'm going to check both of these, make them active. So the way Arborist works is it plants on the first terrain it hits. So as long as inner is there, it's going to plant on the inner. If outer is there and inner is not, it will plant on the outer. We do this by order, okay? So you always want to check this and make sure that your inner is on top. You can drag and drop these. If it's not, you can move them around. But we want to make sure that this inner is on top because that's where we want to plant most everything that we plant. That's got our terrain. The only other real setup here before we start getting into biomes and everything else is going to be getting your satellite in. And that's going to be on course settings. Go to here. We're going to find our satellite image. Let's see, I've got this in assets, terrain backup. I like to take my overlays into Photoshop and alter them. So I'm going to see if I can find my inner sat adjusted. There we go. So that's the one I want. We're going to open. You got to put your terrain size. This one is 2400. Enter. X out of that. Now that you have that in there, when you get ready to plant, you can hit satellite and it switches back and forth between your satellite. So you can see I splined all of these different trees. And the reason they're different colors is this is more of a cypress area and this is more of just an oak area. So you can see how I've got it splined there. That'll come into play later. But that's pretty much the setup. And after that, the next video will deal with starting with your first biome. One thing you want to do, and this is where you create your Arborist file, is you want to go up here, you want to save vegetation. All right, so we're saved there. And what that will do is in your course file, let's go here, here, Innisbrook, and in your GSP, your course file, you now have Arborist. Okay, so we're going to update that every time we make a change. We'll update that. That will pull into Greenkeeper just like anything else. And that's going to finish up the setup video.